Okay, back at it again with my main man in the trenches from the Action Network. You can hear him on Big Bets on Campus, live from Lexington, Kentucky. Stuckey, what's happening, bro?
What's going on, brother? Excited for another weekend of football. So I can't believe it's week eight, and week 9 in college already. The time waiting for football in the summer is so slow, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, we're halfway done, and then wow, we're in bowl season. Wow, we're in the NFL playoffs. So
I wish
yeah,
I could hit
cherish these
rewind.
weekends.
I know.
Yeah,
Is it already did they do the Midnight Madness already out where you are for Kentucky basketball?
yep, that's been done, and one last hurrah for the Kentucky football team. I think they win actually this weekend. I think they're getting 3.5, but they'll play Tennessee Saturday night. There's a lot of hate between those two schools. So, then all the attention will officially turn to basketball.
Well, last week, Brandon Staley put up his showed you his hand again, and the Steelers' offense looked good, but the Ravens dominated. The Pats won outright. So we held our head high this week. Before we dive into the NFL, it's crazy. You tried to give me some talking points and numbers in relation to Utah going into that game, and then after they won, really seeing the numbers of that quarterback in the previous game and the difference of how he played against USC was pretty eye-opening. I mean, he averaged double the amount. I think it was like almost under 5 yards per attempt. He was over 10. He fucking looked like an NFL prospect against them. Just an all-time loss again for the USC defense.
Yeah, no, that was a great call by you. I even had some USC -4,
I just
four and
bet
a
I
half.
just bet on the culture and the physicality. Obviously,
Yeah,
betting
you
on
were
a
right.
pig. He's a third string pig farming quarterback who lit him up.
Yeah, I mean, look, Caleb Williams, he wants to be the number 1 overall pick and a part ownership of the team, have an ownership of the NFL team that drafts him. I mean, and then he's losing it at home to a guy that was working at Lowe's a month ago because he wasn't on scholarship, and he had to pay for his tuition. So he's working at Lowe's, then going to practice. So yeah, bad look for Lincoln Riley. Then he doesn't make his players available to the media. Same old story with that defense. And yeah, they were shredded through the air, on the ground. Baki had another huge day. And just the USC team, you speak of culture, the culture difference between those two teams is massive. And you saw, Caleb Williams looks disinterested at times. I don't know if he's already checked out, just looking forward to the NFL, but like just eating gummy worms during timeouts, not going to. None of the players went to shake Utah's hands at the end. None of the players went to the media and talked for the first time ever after a USC game. There's just no care about the defense from the staff and Lincoln Riley. So, and that's just a soft team. That's the first time I bet on USC under Lincoln Riley in my life, and it might be the last. So yeah, good call by you on the Utes.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look around college basketball and college football, there's 10, 15 programs that are just held to a higher standard. You're sitting around one in Kentucky basketball, USC football, Duke basketball, Alabama football, and they don't feel, and starting with Lincoln, like they kind of get it. I mean, that body language from Caleb, and listen, losing sucks. No one acts like you should be smiling, right? But his body language is beyond shitty. Obviously, Lincoln he was screaming he was having like a mental breakdown 5 minutes into the game. And Kyle Whittingham, let's face it, is just, he's, I don't think people quite understand, within 20 years, they were in the WAC playing San Diego State and Fresno State. Like that's who they played. And now they run the Pac-12. I mean, 2 years ago, they ended Mario Cristobal, sent him running to Miami. Last year, they swept USC. So they've been to back-to-back Rose Bowls. And I don't know if they're going to get back this year, but they definitely have the
They're
opportunity
doing this
again.
without their starting quarterback this year.
Starting quarterback, their backup quarterback. Now, you could argue Kyle's a little crazy. He does full-on scrimmages in August where the quarterback is also live. And I think the guy lacerated his kidney. So their backup quarterback for Cam Rising that was supposed to be their quarterback has been like season-ending injury in a live scrimmage in August. But it kind of represents their program, right? How tough they are. It's why you can't discount them this week. Oregon should beat them, but I wouldn't feel great about betting against Utah at home, would you?
Nope. Yeah, I have a rule of thumb that I'll rarely break, if ever, and that's do not bet against Utah at home. Rice Eccles, it's kind of like the Steelers at home as an underdog. Utah at home as an underdog. I think Whittingham's numbers as an underdog over a field goal are ridiculous, but there's just some voodoo that goes on in that stadium, and obviously it's one of the best home field advantages in all of college football. You even saw that at the Pac-12 championship down in Vegas. It was just a sea of red. But at home, there's just some weird things that happen, and they play up even more, and teams' quarterbacks just go and die there. So, yeah, I think Oregon probably finds a way to win, but we've seen road Bo Nix. Bo Nix hasn't, throughout his career, he hasn't played nowhere close to as well as he does at home. And now you're going to Rice Eccles, where weird things happen. Those two things colliding could lead to disastrous results. So I have no money on that game. I'll sit back, watch it, and enjoy it.
Here's something every football fan should know. You can get anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Well, almost anything, because you can't get your dream running back for your fantasy team delivered with Uber Eats. But they will deliver get flapjacks, tacos, and six-packs. Great pass protection? No. Great pizza selection? Yes. Championship defense? No. Deodorant? Yes. Turnovers? No. Turnovers the pastry? Yes. Because that's groceries. And get those delivered with Uber Eats too. And food from your favorite restaurants. And other essentials. So this season, get anything. Well, almost anything for game day by ordering on the Uber Eats app. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details. Let's dive into the National Football League. As of recording this, I think it's more than up in the air on Tyreek Hill and his hamstring injury. I mean, Tua kind of alluded to that when I saw him talking on Wednesday about if he can't go, we've got to step up. One, do the Patriots have life, or was just somewhat of an outlier game / they're just going to play better against their divisional opponents? Well, look at this. They're playing a divisional opponent. Now, sure, you got some numbers. Historically, I don't care if it's Tom Brady. I don't care if it's Tony Easton. They're not exactly dominating as a franchise down south. So that would make me a little nervous, but I don't really know what to make of this Patriot team, because when you watch them play random teams like the Saints, they get curb stomped. Then you watch them play against a divisional opponent, and really all three games, I mean, their 2 wins are against the Jets and the Bills, and they played Miami pretty tough too. They look like a different team. So I definitely give the Patriots not just a fighting chance, but if Tyreek Hill's out, we know, like you always say, Belichick loves to take away your number one option. So boom, he slows down Waddle, who's also dealing with injuries. And I don't know, maybe Mac Jones got a little positive mojo rolling.
Yeah, I like the Patriots here. I think this line is too high, especially with the injuries. You also have Teron Armstead, your star left tackle, Isaiah Wynn, your left guard. They both just hit IR. Connor Williams, your center, still dealing with an injury. You mentioned Waddle on the back spasms. They can flare up at any time. I mean, this offense is a shell of itself. Defense is getting healthier, but it's still not a great defense. And the Patriots already showed that they can slow down this Miami offense, and they took away the big plays, and that was a much healthier Miami offense. And the main reason for this is that, look, the Patriots going into last week, I mentioned this on last week's show, they weren't as bad. They were bad, but it wasn't as bad as it looked, because they were getting also unlucky in turnovers, field goals, fumbles, a lot of high variance stats. But the biggest thing that happened last week that I saw is the changes on offense. Through the first 6 or 7 weeks, their offensive line was it was just an outright disaster. They had a bunch of injuries. They had guys in there that were I think 4 guys that were amongst the bottom 10 ranked offensive linemen in pass blocking out of like 200 offensive linemen. They were playing a lot of those guys at the same time. Last week, you get Cole Strange back, and it's not like these guys are all pros. It's that the drop off to the replacement is huge. So you got Cole Strange back at guard. they kicked Onwenu out to right tackle, and their right tackle's been the worst in the NFL. Think of, PFF had graded at 27 out of 100 on the season. Verdarian Lowe and Calvin Anderson are way below replacement level players, and that's who they were playing at right tackle. So their offensive line finally was healthy and looked competent. And Mac Jones needs that. Not the most mobile guy. If the pocket craters, his footwork gets lost, he starts to make mistakes. So offensive line, healthier. So what does that mean? Jones is actually able to go through his progressions a little bit, but they were able to run the ball, set up play action. They used a ton of and Bill O'Brien made a number of adjustments here. Put Mac Jones under center more. They used motion 73% of the time. They used some ghost motion, but it's really just, hey, let's establish the run, play action. Mac Jones, I think, was 7 of 8, 98 yards on play action. So it was a lot of let's establish the run, short passes. And, we kick Onwenu out to right tackle. Devontae Parker, get him out of there. He's done. He's washed. He can't get separation. You get Demario Douglas back, who's much better. Kendrick
didn't Bill just pay him?
Yep. Bad. He should not be a GM anymore.
No.
So yeah, a lot of the changes that O'Brien made and some of the guys that they got back made their offense. Their offense is not going to be good this year. Mac Jones isn't good, but they can be an efficient, serviceable offense that can just move, rely on the run game, rely on play action, short passes, control the clock, move the ball efficiently. And their defense is, it's not as an elite old Patriots team, but it's still decent. And it's still going to play every week. And last week they were able to get a ton of pressure on Josh Allen. They're getting a little healthier. Maybe you get Uche back. Their secondary is getting healthier. So there's also going to be very high wins here in Miami this week, and that favors the Patriots, what the Patriots want to do. The Patriots just want to throw it short and run it. So there's too many points in the divisional game. I think the Patriots carry over some of the momentum from last week, and a lot of that was sustainable because of the changes that they made offensive line and some of the play calling and motion that they were using and some of the guys that got back. Throw in the Miami injuries, and I think this is too high.
Well, one trend we saw last week is these division games are just tightly contested. I don't care if it's two shitty teams, if it's a Bills versus the Patriots, it doesn't matter. You're just going to get, like the 49ers could play the Cardinals and it could be tied at half. You're just going to get opponents, even if they have new coaching staffs, the players know each other, their strengths and weaknesses. You're comfortable going up against a guy, a quote unquote big name against a smaller name. Well, if that smaller name has been a multi-year starter, he's not as intimidated going up against that all pro, right? He's used to seeing Aaron Donald or TJ Watt or whoever the matchup is. And the games we're talking about today are all divisional games. And it's just, I would say that tends to favor the underdog, right? Like Denver, Kansas City. Obviously everyone all year has been making fun of Denver since the season started. They've definitely looked a little more functional since that 70-point ass kicking. But they have a lot of defensive players who have just seen Patrick Mahomes. Now, Sean Payton is a new coach. They have a brand new coaching staff, but getting 7.5 at home, Mile High, the Chiefs have definitely been known, they flex their muscles when they have to. And sometimes they can just be very sleepy. Now they still win the game. Yeah. I think the Warriors have been like that for many stretches over the peak Steph Curry years. And I think the Chiefs definitely have that. And to me, the Chargers, we talked about it last week, why we like the Chargers. It's like, I think the Chiefs in a weird way, like respect them because they've played them so tight over the years and they give a really good effort. I can't imagine the same respect that they have, not just for Denver in general, because they've been kicking their ass now for years, but like this specific team.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's too many points over a touchdown, even at 7. Look, you mentioned it. The Chiefs, they kind of play with their food. They play down or up to their competition. Part of that is, and that's why one of the reasons why they've been so bad as a bigger favorite historically with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They also know how to run out the clock late, but a lot of that is that they just don't show their whole arsenal. And why would you, right? They don't show everything in the playbook. They don't, it's like, hey, we don't have to unleash all of our full arsenal here against a game we know that we're going to win. And this would be the perfect spot to like, hey, let's hold things back because you just beat the Chargers. You have the Dolphins and the Eagles coming up in your next 2 games. So it is a perfect time to just say, all right, we're not going to show much. Hold on, let me yell at my dog to shut up. Sorry about that. So I would say that, look, the Chiefs probably come out a little sleepy here off of a huge win, 2 big games coming up. And the Broncos, look, everyone remembers that 70-point game. It's like how some people still remember the Cardinals beating the Cowboys. No, the Cardinals suck. They're horrible. They get blown out by double digits every week. The Broncos defense is not good, but it's not that team, and they've gotten better. I don't know what Vance Joseph was doing over the first 40 days. I think he was on it's a long extended bender. I've been there, so I get it. But they didn't make any changes on the defense. They finally have. They changed some of their pressure schemes. They also are getting healthier. You get Browning back, DJ Jones back. They finally benched Amari Mathis last week, which is massive. He's been the worst corner in the league by far all year. You can look at and that's huge because you have Patrick Surtain on the other side. So what does that mean? Teams are throwing at the other corner no matter who it is. So you get Fabian Moreau in there. He's a veteran. He's not an elite guy, but he's the serviceable starter. And they finally got Damari Mathis out of there. I don't know why they kept putting him out there, and he was getting burned every single week. So, some guys healthier. They made some schematic changes. You got Mathis out of there. You get Moreau in at corner. This defense still not good, but it's serviceable. And it's, the last 2 weeks, they held the Chiefs, who were kind of playing around with their food, to 22 points at home. They held the Packers last week to 17 points. So this defense is a little better. The offense, look, Russ is not, he's washed. It is what it is. The offensive line is getting better. They're healthier at the skill positions. They just got to come out here. It's going to be like 20 degrees. They just got to run the ball and keep running it and keep giving it to Javonte Williams, who's now at 100% health. They didn't give it to him enough in Kansas City. He averaged, 5-6 yards a carry. Feed him, shorten the game. Your defense isn't as bad as it's been. This is too many points at home. And this Broncos team that isn't going anywhere. They've lost, for 10 years straight. They haven't beat the Chiefs in 10 years. This is pretty much their Super Bowl. I think you get a max effort here and potentially sleepy Chiefs team, I think, over touchdowns at play here.
Okay, another big divisional game. Minnesota at Green Bay. I woke up this morning scrolling X, and I saw Kurt Warner defending Jordan Love, breaking down the tape, saying no one's open. When I watch Jordan Love, even if no one's open, I see a guy that just doesn't look that comfortable. Obviously, the Packers have not played well of late. Minnesota, incredible win on Monday night. I mean, Cousins was fucking lights out, 35 of 45, almost threw for 400 yards. And honestly, the eye test was better than the numbers, especially when you factored in Jefferson's on the side, Addison coming in and out of the game. He was awesome. Short week for them on the road, divisional opponent. Kind of a kitchen sink game for Green Bay, right? I mean, you lose this game, all of a sudden we start talking about, are they headed toward competing to be a top 5 drafting team? So, I mean, I don't know. I don't quite know what to make of this Green Bay team. Besides, I don't think they're very good, but they don't feel like a team that's going to go 4-13, right? They do feel more like a 6 or 7 win team, but this is a type game. I don't think I can touch this game because the bet would be Green Bay, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe Minnie's got a little juice. A lot of people are like, oh, they're not quite dead, especially when you look at the NFC. But I don't know. This is a tough one for me.
Yeah, this is Packers all the way for me. Now you're getting +1. This is the past 5 weeks. What have we seen? It's all the teams that have the big win that start getting the chatter in the media, and everyone, bettors are like, "Ooh, Kirk Cousins MVP, Vikings playoffs." Like this happened, I think this was 6th straight week. If you pick out that
we said Niners undefeated. Now they're losing.
Niners undefeated. You saw the Dolphins put up 70, they get blown out. You see the Bills blow them out. They get all the hype. They should have lost 3 straight since to the Pats, Giants, and Jags. The Niners beat the Cowboys. They lose 2 straight. The Lions won 4 straight. Everyone's talking about them. They lose, by 130 in Baltimore. So I think this is another case where the Vikings are getting a little bit too much love. Look, Cousins was in his bag. He has games like that, and he was shredding San Francisco. But I think a lot of that game also had to do with San Francisco's injuries and their mistakes. And Purdy, if you look at Purdy's numbers, I don't know if you've seen this, like before and after the concussion.
I saw it.
They were pretty alarming. So, and he had a couple of mistakes. And I think the 49ers, even with how great Cousins was, still win that game.
Didn't Tua last year? It was either Thanksgiving or Christmas when they played the Packers, got a concussion, but they didn't know, and then he threw 4 picks in the second half, and everyone's like, "That's the worst quarterback we've ever seen." Turns out he was concussed.
Yeah, it happens a couple times a year, and then you'll be like, oh, now it makes sense, like why they just didn't see any linebackers or safeties, and we're just throwing it straight ahead. So yeah, look, I'm not overreacting to that game and what the Vikings did. This is a Vikings team that still cannot run the ball for the life of them. So they have to just drop back and throw it 45 to 50 times. Well, that's not how you want to attack the Packers. You want to run on the Packers. They're a run funnel defense. Jair Alexander, who look, the Packers are 2-4. They've had 3 losses by a combined 7 points. They led by in the fourth quarter in 3 of their 4 games. Their offense has been so inconsistent, as you'd expect with Jordan Love, and an offense that has injuries, that's had injuries on the offensive line and wide receiver. For whatever reason, their offense grades out dead last in the NFL in the first half and number 1 in EPA per play in the second half. Makes sense of that because I can't. But I don't think they're as bad as they've looked or as people think. And this is a good matchup for them because Minnesota can't run the ball. Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in the NFL, didn't play last week. And he's missed a couple games. He's going to play. So you can put him, you can shadow Addison with him, no Jefferson. And I think that this Minnesota offense will not look anywhere close outdoors to what it did last week. On the other side of the ball, the Green Bay offense, I'm not really sure what Matt LaFleur is doing play calling wise. They're not really taking many shots. Granted, they've had a ton of injuries, but does
he trust the quarterback?
Yeah, maybe not, but they're running it too much. They're throwing it way too short. But guess what? That's what will work against the Vikings. The Vikings are blitzing a ton, and you can run on them. Vikings are 25th in defensive success rate against the run. Maybe Aaron Jones is finally healthy. He's only getting like 10 touches a game. I'm not even sure what's going on there. Yeah, even after the bye. But yeah, even AJ Dillon can have success getting like 3-4 yards against this Vikings defense. And the Vikings, what they're doing under Flores, look, they lead the NFL in blitz rate at 58%, but they also are taking away the explosive play. They have double the league average. They're double the second team in drop 8 coverage. So what Flores is doing with this really, this unit that lacks in talent, he's getting the most out of it. But he's bringing a ton of blitzes and he's dropping his safeties way back. He's saying, look, we're going to try to get pressure on you and create a negative play, but we're also not going to let you get, 30, 40-yard gains. You're still going to have to earn it down the field. We hope that you'll make a mistake. But that kind of doesn't really work against the Packers. The Packers aren't trying to drop back and throw it down the field. They're trying to run it, and they're trying short pass, and that's what can work against Minnesota. And Jordan Love, for all his shortcomings, look, a lot of variance in these numbers over just 6 games, but his numbers against the blitz are pretty good. He has 4 touchdowns, no interceptions against the blitz, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions when he's not blitzed. So I think this is the good buy low spot, sell high the Vikings, short week, and it's a decent matchup on both sides if you get into it. I just don't think the Vikings are as good as they looked last week. Packers aren't as bad as they have been. They're getting a little healthier. I think this is your buy low, sell high spot, divisional, home short dog at home outdoors. Give me the Pack here.
I know you told me you wanted to get weird. Texans at Panthers.
Yeah. This is my favorite over of the week. And some people might be saying like Texans, Panthers over. Well, here's the case. First of all, the Texans are fast. They play fast. And they've been playing, they're, I think, top 5 in pace in the NFL. And Stroud's been good off the jump. Bryce Young has not been, but he showed some flashes, the 2 weeks before their bye week. And that's important because both of these teams had bye weeks leading up to this game with new staffs, new schemes, and rookie quarterbacks. And if you go back 30 years, overs with rookie quarterbacks after a bye week are hitting at about 61% over a 30-year time frame. Which makes sense. It's like, all right, let's reevaluate. The game might have been too fast. You get like 2 weeks to kind of reset. What are we doing well? What are we not? I think Bryce Young can really benefit from that. But I think the biggest thing here is that Frank Reich handed over play calling duties to Thomas Brown right before the bye against the Dolphins. And the most interesting thing to come out of that game is with Bryce Young before then, the Panthers were the slowest team in the NFL. That one game under Thomas Brown, it comes from the McVay tree, loved tempo. Bryce Young loved when running tempo at Alabama. They led the league in week 6 in no huddle rate. They were one of the fastest teams that weekend. So I don't think the market's fully accounting for that. I think the Panthers with Thomas Brown calling plays after the bye, I think they're going to go from one of the slowest teams to one of the fastest. So even if it's a disaster with Young, at least they're going fast. So this game, I think will be played at a really high tempo. I think Stroud's been good from the jump, and he's even had a disastrous offensive line in front of him. I mean, you different guys out every week. So you have a healthier offensive line, 2 weeks to reset. So I think both quarterbacks will play better. I don't know how much better Stroud can play as a rookie, but I think, and this game will be played at a high pace. Neither defense is any good. So yeah, I think this has this sneaky shootout potential where it turns into like that narrative game where, your two rookies are battling it out. And it turns actually into a fun game that no one was anticipating being fun. But I think it's the pace here. I think that you're going to see the Panthers offense look a little better. Still not great, but just a little better. But most importantly, they're just going to be going fast and using a lot of no huddle and tempo.
There's some games. I mean, there's just some big swing games this week. Now, Purdy's more than likely out. No one's cleared concussion protocol, playing the Bengals off a bye. The Browns, Deshaun Watson situation is a disaster. He's out on the road at Seattle, who if Cleveland loses and the Niners can't beat the Bengals, all of a sudden Seattle would be in first place in the West. And then the Steelers, they're playing the Jags. You would think like a couple weeks ago, it'd be like, I like the Jags in that game. But now, the Steelers got a little momentum at home. That's probably a weird spot for Tomlin. Usually he's better as the underdog. But this weekend could get weird. That's all I know.
Yeah. I mean, look, you saw the Ravens are hitting their stride.
The Ravens get the Cardinals. They'll kill them.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Ravens are hitting their stride. The Browns are if they could just stay healthy at quarterback,
if they just had average quarterback play,
yeah,
just like a top 15, 16 guy,
yeah,
a Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, when they were kind of good, they'd be fine, right?
Look, the Browns will still they're still going to be in the mix. And you mentioned swing games. The last 2 weeks with PJ Walker, you get the Niners to miss a 40-yard field goal, and then you get that PI call on a ball that landed in Texas. Against the Colts and uncatchable. Yeah, by the way, the uncatchable rule in the NFL, every 3-4 weeks they'll say uncatchable, or every 4 years, I should say. I always think they take the rule away, because they never worry about uncatchable. Then every once in a while they'll call uncatchable. I'm like, oh yeah.
I feel like when we were kids, they used to call it all the time.
All the time. They would have a conference and then they would do this. Everyone would do this on the sidelines, the coaches, and then the ref would say, pick up the flag, say the ball was uncatchable. It happens once in a blue moon.
Never.
So it's crazy. But look, those 2 games they could have easily lost, and they got the 2 wins with PJ. Huge, because now you're 4-2. Because the AFC North, I mean, the Bengals are in last place at 3-3, and then they're still going to be underdogs this week. Lose that game, you're way behind the 8 ball. I still think the 49ers, even if they lose, I think the game's much more important for the Bengals. The Bengals, because the 49ers still have the Seahawks twice coming up. The division is still weak. Like the Bengals division is brutal. The Bengals have the hardest schedule in the NFL, remaining schedule in the NFL. If you look at strength of schedule. So this game is much more important for the Bengals. I do think that, look, if the 49ers lose this game, weird things can still happen, but you could throw out the 1 seed, but it doesn't really matter with that team. They're a team it doesn't matter if you were outdoors in weather. They can kind of play the same way. Obviously
Eagles would feel like a lock for the 1 seed, wouldn't they?
Yep. Well, look, they
still play Seattle.
Yeah, the Eagles, I will say that the Eagles, it was really important for them with these new coordinators, and they've had some struggles, but like they could have lost to Washington if River Paddleboat Ron went for 2. But it was really important to get off to a good start, because they're at the Commanders, which is not a lock. Like if that gets to 7, I'll play Washington there. Washington tends to just play them tough. But after that game, Eagles go Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks. That is the hardest 6-game stretch I think I've ever seen. I mean, Cowboys twice, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, and at Seattle to cap it all off. I mean, that is brutal. So you could see them go 3-3 over that stretch. So there's still a lot of football to be played, but with only 1 seed in home field, it's there's every week is even more important than it's ever been. So I'm looking forward to Sunday.
And then Monday we get the Raiders. That should be fun at Detroit.
Yeah, these primetime games, man. They when can we start flexing? We got in primetime we're gonna have Bagent and Hoyer or O'Connell. I mean, it's bad. You get Baker tonight.
What are we doing? Okay, Stuckey. Well, let's enjoy the weirdness. No buys. I mean, we got a full slate of games. There's 16 games this weekend, so there's you better have multiple TVs and iPad because there's a lot of shit going on come Sunday. So enjoy it. I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, brother.